Well, so how did I end up moving from a place called Cottage Grove, Oregon, one of the best places in the world to grow up, small logging sawmill community, halfway around the world, living inside of a volcano crater, village of Tempur, Gunung Muria volcano, north central Java. We'll stand by. I'll explain it. Well, hello everybody. So this video is all about how did I end up here? Well, as you can see in the beginning, I grew up in a really small town in Cottage Grove, Oregon. Absolutely one of the best places a kid could ever grow up. Adventure everywhere. Small town. People got along. I don't remember hardly any crime whatsoever the entire time I lived there. Hell, for 30 years, my dad left a truck parked in the driveway with the keys in it. And it was just, actually, all of us that grew up there, we won the lottery in life. We really did. But at 19 years old, I didn't realize that. I just had to get away. All kinds of things were going on back then. I'm 69 years old. When I was 19, so 50 years ago, Vietnam War was raging. We'd all signed up. We'd already had my draft physical. All kinds of things were going on. And I was going to school at Southern Oregon. Wasn't doing real well with classes, mostly because it was my own damn fault. I was a member of the ski patrol at Mount Ashland, and I thought that my ski pass was more important to me than any of the classes I could take. It's kind of funny. Years later, I became a college professor, but anyway, at the time, it just wasn't working for me. So I came home one weekend from Ashland, and Dad said, "Come on with me," and we're in the truck, and I'm getting a talking to. And anybody that knew Keith Stiff know that he could do a talking to, and it was really a one-way conversation about what I needed to get my shit together, basically, and figure out what life was. And he was giving me all kinds of options. He said, I can get you a job with the railroad here. I can get you a job over here. You can come back to work for me at the sawmill. And I had been doing that since I was 16, and I really didn't want to go back down and work at the sawmill. That was the last thing I wanted to do. My dad worked there for 40 years. 40 years. Bottom line is, it just wasn't going to be me. And I looked at him and I just said, Dad, hold on a second. There's got to be some place besides Cottage Grove, Oregon, and I'm going to go find it. Well, it wasn't, 2 weeks later, I took off to Alaska with Les Wedham, Dave Ward, and Al Bean in search of our fame and fortune in Alaska. Well, we all kind of did various things. I ended up working on a commercial salmon boat. Came back from there back to Oregon, moved back down to Ashland, getting ready to go back to school again, get a phone call that I had received a letter from the draft board. I immediately took off and went down to the Navy office and said, "Hey, take me. Take me right now. I'll go." Off I went. 2 weeks later, I was in San Diego in a boot camp. Well, 26 years later, and half of that time I lived in Asia, I finished a Navy career. So at 69 years old, half of my life I've lived in Asia, half of it. I have wandered and stomped the terra throughout Asia and around the world. I mean, I've really spent my adult life wandering. Although I've been very successful, had all kinds of great jobs, did a bunch of different things. College professor, wrote curriculum for a long time, ran an adventure travel business. My last job, I was chief executive officer of an international oil and gas company in Singapore. Well, in 2014, I finally checked out. The oil industry was on its knees. Price of oil had dropped by less than or more than half of its value. The chairman of the board and the board of directors decided that all of us expats, that was costing the company a lot of money, that we had to go. And so in 2014, I checked out. I had been married to Umi for about 2 years at that point, and she told me about this wonderful place called Tempur, where she grew up. And as you can see behind me, it's inside of the old Mount Moriah volcano crater. The mountain blew up 2,000 years ago, and it basically was an island. And on the north coast of Java, I'll put a couple pictures on here from Google Maps so you can see where we're at. So go into Google Maps, type in Indonesia, Java Island, and you'll get a map like this. Across the top, you can see where I've pinpointed the red dot is the peninsula created by the Mount Moriah volcano. Well, that's where we're located. And if you zoom in close to it, you can see the actual crater. It's outlined there. And you can see a ring road that goes around the outside. Well, that's 100 miles around that road. If you try to drive it, it takes you 4 or 5 hours to drive it. And the mountain is the prominent view everywhere you go as you go around it. The yellow line around is the actual crater rim, the ridge of the rim all the way around. And our village is that valley, sits in that valley in the very kind of the top center part of that. It's probably about 4 or 5 miles across that valley in the bottom. And that's where the village is. That'll give you some context of exactly where we're at. And when the volcano blew up, it filled in the gap, the narrow strait between the island and the mainland, and filled in the valley. Even today, when they do construction work down in Kudus and Pati in that area, they uncover all kinds of fossils, marine fossils and things. So about 800 years ago, people started coming in here to this valley in search of wood to start with for fires and things like that. And then as time went on, they just started settling here and creating a little village, and it's called Tempur. And Tempur kind of means, it's in Indonesian, it's a word for fighting or a battle kind of a thing. And it was a battle named because of the rivers colliding together, different confluences of streams. Well, inside this crater, there's an abundance of water, and that's what's made it so appealing for everybody. So as time went on, they started inhabiting the crater. The crazy part is that they didn't even have a road into this volcano crater until 1995. About 10 years prior to that, the villagers had spent a year creating a trail very similar to the trail I'm on right here, big enough that you could run motorcycles. So there were people that went from Madani, which is about 10 kilometers out of the crater, to the southeast side of the crater, and northeast side of the crater, and they would bring goods in and different things. Prior to that, the only way to get in and out of here was literally just to walk. Umi's father worked as a porter for many, many years, hauling coffee, rice, whatever they could sell out to the road in Madani. And it was another 10 kilometers from Madani on into a place called Colette. And that was the main road. Well, coffee is the biggest cash crop here. Now here's a couple of shots of what the coffee looks like on the plant. The white are blossoms. It smells like jasmine throughout the whole crater when it's blossoming. And then this is the coffee drying in our driveway. So most people just survive on what they grow and eat. So it's basically sustenance farming. And that's gone on for hundreds and hundreds of years here. And even today, the majority of the people here in the crater, that's how they survive. And it's what they get from their crops and also from the jungle every day. The plants all around me are used constantly for cooking. These big leaf plants over my shoulder here, Umi, when we go into the woods, she always takes the stalks of those and then cooks them down at night. Tapioca, it almost looks like sweet potatoes when it's taken out of the ground. In America, all we ever saw was little balls in a tapioca pudding. Well, people don't even do that around here at all. But so there's just an abundance of things. All the rice terraces, people constantly have rice going, corn, vanilla, cinnamon, the list goes on and on and on. Well, as time goes on with this channel, I'll highlight each of those different agricultural areas that people use to survive with. It's an amazing place to live. I am the only non-Indonesian within a 2-hour drive of here. Nobody else at all anywhere near here. So it has been quite an experience for me to live here. Now, I've done a lot of studying about culture. I've done a lot of executive coaching, done seminars on cultural awareness, cultural diversity. I was a leadership professor. Just spent a lot of my life studying that process and what is it about cultures and all of those kind of things. Well, that's what I want to try to bring to this YouTube channel, is what it's like for someone like me to actually live in this type of culture, being completely from a different culture, different mindset. The conversations we had around the dinner table when I was a kid are completely different than the conversations that are around the dinner table with their parents. So there's a different perspective to life here. There's a lot of things that I'll highlight as I go through it. And I'm looking forward to showing everybody just exactly how that has come about. Anyway, let me just pan around and show you a few views here. I'm way up on top of the hill near the crater rim. I'm probably 1,500 feet above the valley floor, the crater floor. I dropped Umi off at her sister's house. A bunch of girls all got together. They're hanging out. So anyway, enjoy. There's a cicada type bug that makes that sound in the background. And that's the old workhorse right there. Got 28,000 kilometers on this thing. 9 years old. That's about 17,500 miles roaming the back roads of north central Java here in Indonesia. Never imagined I'd spend that much time on a motorcycle, but it's been a kick. Honda just keeps on going. Enjoy. Well, I'm back down at the house. This is the view from our deck where we live. One thing I forgot to mention when I was talking about the road coming in here, it was 1995 when they finally finished the road and the first Jeep made its way into the village. They didn't even get electricity until 2004. Think about that, 2004. I don't remember being without electricity my entire life in the U.S. Very, very typical kitchen inside a house.
Excuse me.
And people wonder why tuberculosis is rampant in this part of the world. No chimney, nothing.
And tahu.
This one called tahun.
Oh yes.
Tahun.
Tahu.
Tahu? Tahu. Okay, let me try this one. It looks really good. Well, I've spent the last 8 years trying to hike in every nook and cranny and valley in this volcano crater, and I've damn near got it all covered. Hiking, as most people know, is one of my favorite passions, and I continue to do it.